Elias Harper had always believed that space looked quieter than it truly was. From inside his small exploration ship, the stars appeared frozen, like tiny white marks painted on a dark wall. But he knew better. Between those lights were winds of dust, slow-moving energy storms, and ancient paths once traveled by civilizations long gone. His ship drifted near the edge of a forgotten trade route, guided by an old map he had found in a public archive on Earth. The map promised an abandoned station, one that once served as a meeting point for travelers from many worlds. Most people ignored places like this. There was no money to be made and no fame to be found, but Elias liked quiet corners of the galaxy. They felt honest to him, like places that had nothing left to pretend. The station appeared slowly, its shape rising from the dark like a sleeping creature. Long curved arms reached out into space, and soft lights glowed along its sides, dim and tired but still alive. Elias frowned in surprise. An abandoned station should have been dark. This one was not. He slowed his ship and circled once, scanning for danger. The readings showed no weapons, no defense systems, and no large ships nearby. Just old metal, fading power lines, and a single life signal inside. "One person," Elias said softly to himself. "Guess I'm not as alone as I thought." He guided his ship into the docking bay. The doors opened with a slow, careful movement, like they had not been used in a long time. When he stepped out, the air felt thin but breathable, carrying a faint smell of cold metal and old electricity. The station was quiet in a way that felt thoughtful, not empty. Lights in the ceiling flickered gently, as if trying their best. Broken signs in alien languages hung on the walls, their meanings lost to time. Elias followed the life signal down a wide hall and into a large circular room filled with tall panels and glowing star maps. At the center stood a figure. She was not what he expected. He had imagined a mechanic, maybe a scavenger, someone in heavy gear and tools. Instead, he saw a woman with smooth, pale blue skin and long, silver hair that floated slightly, as if the air around her moved differently. She wore simple clothing, soft and flowing like fabric made from light itself. She was standing in front of a broken star map, carefully touching the surface as if trying to wake it. Elias cleared his throat to avoid startling her. Hello." She turned, her eyes a deep shade of gold, calm and bright at the same time. For a moment she just looked at him, not with fear, not with surprise, just quiet attention. "Hello," she said. Her voice was gentle, like water moving over smooth stone. Elias lifted a hand in a small wave. "Didn't think I'd find anyone out here. Name's Elias. My ship picked up your signal." She hesitated just for a breath. "You may call me Lyris." "Nice to meet you, Lyris," he said with a friendly smile. "Looks like this place has seen better days." She looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time through his eyes. "Yes, it has been quiet for a long time." Elias walked closer to the star map, careful not to touch anything without asking. "Mind if I take a look?" "I've fixed a few old systems like this before. Not this fancy, but machines are machines, you know?" Lyris studied him again, her head tilting slightly. "You would help a stranger," he shrugged. "Out here, strangers are just friends you haven't had tea with yet." She seemed to think about that. Then she stepped aside, giving him space near the panel. Elias knelt and opened a small tool case from his belt. He ran his scanner over the map's surface. "Power lines weak. Looks like half the station is running on backup systems." As he worked, he talked. He always did. Silence made him uncomfortable, and space had given him plenty of it over the years. "I'm from Earth," he said. "Blue planet, lots of water, loud people. We argue about everything, even how to make bread. But we're pretty good at fixing things when they break. Sometimes people too." Lyris listened without interrupting. He connected a small cable and the map flickered. Stars brightened and lines appeared between them, forming glowing paths across the surface. Lyris took a slow step back, her eyes reflecting the light. "That's better," Elias said proudly. "Still needs a full repair, but it'll hold for now." She turned to him. "You speak as if you do not fear this place," he smiled. "I guess I don't. It feels peaceful. Like it's waiting for someone to talk to it again." Something in her expression softened. They moved through the station together after that. Elias helped restore lights, reroute power, and clean dust from old systems. Lyris followed, sometimes asking questions, sometimes just watching. At one point she asked, "Why do humans travel so far from home?" Elias paused, thinking. "Some of us run, some of us search. I think I just like seeing what's out there. Makes the universe feel a little smaller, a little friendlier." She nodded slowly, as if holding on to those words. They stopped in a quiet room that looked out into open space. A wide window showed the stars drifting past, endless and bright. This station, Lyra said, was once a place where many voices met. Sounds important, Elias said. Like a space town hall, she almost smiled. Elias leaned against the wall. Back home, we have this idea, doesn't matter how big someone is or how important. Everyone still gets tired, everyone still needs help sometimes. Lyris looked at her hands. Even those who carry great responsibility. Especially them, Elias said. You try carrying a whole world on your shoulders alone, it doesn't end well. Somewhere deep in the station, a low hum began. The systems he had repaired were connecting, slowly waking parts of the station that had slept for years. Far away, beyond the reach of the station's walls, silent ships drifted in the dark. Their sensors watched the lights grow brighter. Lyris felt it before Elias did, the shift in the air, the quiet tension of something unseen. Elias noticed her stillness. You okay? Yes, she said. I am simply listening. He tilted his head. To what? The galaxy, she replied. He laughed softly. Wish I could hear that. They returned to the central room. The star map now glowed brighter than before, lines stretching farther, touching points Elias had never seen on any human chart. Wow, he whispered. This thing is way bigger than I thought. Lyris stood beside him. Everything is when you finally see all of it. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. Guess I should log this place with the Explorers Network, let people know it's still alive. Her hand moved gently over the map and a section dimmed, then closed. The long-range signal faded without Elias noticing. Perhaps, she said, some places are not ready to be found again. He nodded. Yeah, I get that. They sat on the edge of the platform, looking at the stars. Elias took out a small heat pack and 2 cups. Tea, he offered. Lyris looked at the cup like it was a rare and delicate thing. I have never had this. He handed it to her carefully. First time for everything. She took a small sip. Her eyes widened just a little. It is warm. High praise, Elias said, grinning. For a while they just sat there, 2 small figures in a very large universe. Elias did not see the distant fleet. He did not hear the silent messages traveling between ships, reporting what they were witnessing. But Lyris did. She looked at him, this human who had walked into the heart of power without knowing it, who had offered help without fear, without respect, without worship. Just kindness. And for the first time in a very long age, the strongest queen in the galaxy felt something close to relief. The stars outside the window shifted as the station slowly turned, carrying them both into a future neither of them yet understood. The station continued to wake up slowly, like an old dream returning one piece at a time. Lights grew stronger in the halls, and soft lines of energy ran along the walls like glowing veins. Elias noticed the change with quiet pride, as if he were helping an old friend stretch after a long sleep. Lyris walked beside him, her steps light and calm. She seemed to know the station in a way Elias could not explain. She never looked lost. Even when the paths curved and split, she always chose the right way without thinking. They reached a wide chamber filled with tall crystal columns. Each one glowed with a different color, soft blues, warm golds, gentle greens. The air felt warmer here, full of a low, peaceful sound like distant singing. Elias stared. Okay, this is definitely not a normal trade station. Lyris placed her hand on one of the columns. The glow grew brighter and a shape appeared inside the crystal. It was a map, but not of space. It showed worlds, cities, and faces, different species, different skies, different homes. This is a memory hall, she said. It holds stories. Stories? Elias asked. Like history and feelings, Lyris added. What moments meant to those who lived them? Elias stepped closer. Inside one column, he saw a small alien child holding the hand of a taller figure, both standing under a sky filled with floating lights. In another, a group of beings gathered around a table, sharing food and laughter. He smiled. Guess every species keeps memories the same way we do, through moments, not dates. Lyris watched him closely. Is that how humans remember their past? Mostly, Elias said. We tell stories, around fires, around tables, through books and screens. Makes the past feel alive again. She nodded slowly, like she was learning something important. They moved on, passing rooms filled with old instruments, quiet gardens with glowing plants, and halls lined with symbols Elias could not read. But somehow he could feel what they meant. Welcome, peace, listen. At one point, Lyris stopped in front of a tall doorway that did not open when Elias touched it. "This room," she said, "is not for me alone." "Well, that's a problem," Elias replied, "because now I really want to see what's inside." She looked at him for a moment, then placed her hand on the door. It opened smoothly without sound. Inside was a wide circle of seats, all facing a single platform in the center. Above it, a soft light hung in the air, changing colors like a slow heartbeat. Elias stepped in, his boots echoing gently. "This looks like a meeting place or a stage." "It is both," Lyra said. "Many voices once spoke here." He imagined it filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, talking, arguing, laughing, sharing ideas. The thought made the room feel warmer. "Back home," he said, "we have places like this, town halls, councils, classrooms, not always peaceful but important." "Do humans always listen to each other?" Lyris asked. Elias laughed softly. "No, but we try. And sometimes trying is the part that matters." Somewhere far beyond the station, signals moved through the dark. Quiet watchers shared what they saw. The human did not bow. He did not fear. He did not ask for power or favor. He simply walked and spoke as if he belonged. Lyris felt the weight of many eyes on her, though Elias did not. She carried their attention like a soft pressure in her chest. But for now, she chose to stay here in this moment where no one else existed. They sat in the circle of seats, facing each other across the empty platform. "Can I ask you something?" Lyris said. "Sure," Elias replied. "I might not have a good answer, but I'll try." "Why do you offer help so easily?" she asked. "You do not know who I am. You do not know what this place is." Elias leaned back, thinking, "I guess because someone once helped me when I didn't deserve it, or maybe when I needed it most. Made me realize the universe doesn't get better on its own. Someone has to reach out first." Lyris looked down at the light above the platform. "And if the one you help is powerful," he shrugged, "power doesn't change tired hands or lonely hearts." The words settled between them like something alive. They continued exploring. Elias repaired a broken energy bridge that connected two sections of the station. When it lit up, Lyris crossed it carefully, her reflection shining beneath her in the glowing path. "This place is beautiful," Elias said. "Hard to believe it was just sitting out here, forgotten." "Some things are hidden to protect them," Lyris replied, "and some are hidden because no one thinks to look." Elias nodded. "Yeah, that sounds about right." Later, they found a small garden room. Soft grass covered the floor and tiny floating lights drifted between glowing flowers. Elias sat down, tired but happy. "I didn't pack food for this long of a visit," he admitted, "but I don't regret stopping." Lyris knelt across from him. "You could have turned away." "I could have," he said, "but then I wouldn't have met you or seen any of this." She studied his face like she was trying to understand something deeper than his words. Far away, a signal slipped through the darkness. A relay flickered just for a moment, then glowed brighter. In the central chamber, the star map shifted. A new line appeared, bright and strong, reaching out farther than before. Elias noticed. "Hey, I didn't do that." Lyris stood slowly. "The station is remembering its purpose." They returned to the map. The room felt different now. Fuller, like something invisible, had stepped inside. A soft sound filled the air. Voices, distant, layered, gentle but powerful. Elias froze. "Lyris," he whispered, "I think your radio's on." She closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. "Not a radio," she said. "A call." The voices became clearer. Not words he could understand, but tones filled with emotion. Curiosity, surprise, respect. A single voice rose above the rest, speaking in a language Elias could suddenly understand. "Your radiance," it said. "We see the lights again." Elias turned slowly toward Lyris. Who's that?" She hesitated. For the first time since they met, her calm wavered. "They are old friends," she said carefully. More lights appeared on the map. Dots across the galaxy, connecting, glowing, forming a web of attention focused on this single station. Elias rubbed his arms. "This is starting to feel bigger than a broken power line." Lyris looked at him, truly looked, as if seeing him for the first time. "You came here to help," she said, "not knowing what you were touching." "Still am," he replied, "even if I don't understand it." The voices waited. The galaxy waited. Lyris stepped forward and placed her hand on the center of the map. The light grew warm and steady. "I am here," she said. A wave of quiet relief moved through the voices, not loud, not dramatic, just deep and honest. Elias felt it even if he did not know why. "Whatever you just did," he said, "it helped someone, I can tell." Lyris smiled, small and real. "Yes, it did." They stood together in the center of the room, surrounded by the soft glow of distant worlds. Elias took a slow breath. So, do you want to tell me what's really going on here? She looked at him, at this human who had walked into the heart of something ancient and powerful with nothing but kindness and a tool kit. Soon, she said. But first, I would like to hear more about your home, about Earth. He grinned. Fair warning, we're weird. I find that comforting, Lyris replied. The voices faded into a gentle hum. The map dimmed, returning to its quiet glow. Outside, the silent fleet remained, watching. Inside, two small figures talked about oceans, rain, crowded cities, and quiet nights under open skies. And in the space between their words, something new began to form. A bridge not made of light or power, but of understanding. The galaxy, for the first time in a long while, leaned closer to listen. The station felt different after the voices faded. The air was still the same, the lights still glowed softly, and the stars outside the windows still drifted in their slow, endless dance. But something unseen had changed. It was like a quiet promise had been made, and the walls themselves were listening. Elias and Lyris walked through the halls again, but now Elias noticed small details he had missed before. Symbols on the walls seemed to shift when he was not looking. Floors hummed under his boots with a gentle warmth. The station did not feel like a machine anymore. It felt like a place that knew it was being used again. Lyris stopped near a tall window that looked out into open space. Beyond the glass, faint shapes moved in the distance. Small lights, many of them. Are those ships? Elias asked. Yes, Lyris said. He squinted. That's a lot of ships. They have been waiting, she replied. For what? He asked. She did not answer right away. They went to a quiet room filled with low seats and soft light. Elias sat down, feeling the long day in his shoulders. Lyris remained standing, her hands folded in front of her. You said you would tell me what's really going on, Elias said gently. Lyris took a slow breath. It was not something she needed to do, but she had learned from him that sometimes breathing helped with difficult moments. This station is not only a memory hall, she said. It is a meeting place for those who guide the galaxy. Elias blinked. Guide how? Like traffic control, she almost laughed, almost. Like law, she said. Like peace, like choosing which worlds receive help and which problems must be solved first. Elias leaned back in his seat. Okay, that's bigger than traffic. Yes, Lyris agreed. So where do you fit into this? He asked. She looked at him, and for the first time there was no distance in her eyes, no careful choice of words. I am the one they listen to when they cannot agree, she said. I am the one who carries their final questions. Elias stared at her, then he let out a short, nervous laugh. You're telling me you're what, like a queen? He said. Lyris tilted her head. That is one of the words used. He ran a hand through his hair. I offered a queen a broken cup of tea and advice about tired hands. Yes, she said. There was a long silence. Elias looked down at the floor. Well, that explains the ships. She waited for fear, for anger, for distance. Instead, Elias looked back up at her and smiled, a little unsure but still warm. You could have told me, he said. I wanted to be Lyris first, she replied. Not a title, he nodded slowly. Yeah, I get that. They walked back to the central chamber where the star map glowed. The light felt stronger now, like it was holding its breath. The voices returned, soft and layered, filling the room without sound. Elias could feel them more than hear them. Questions, worry, hope. A tall shape appeared on the far side of the platform, made of light and shadow, then another, and another. Forms of different beings projected from distant worlds. A gathering without ships, without travel, just presence. Lyris stepped forward, the room changed. The soft, calm space became something larger, not colder, not harsher, just wider. Elias stayed where he was, unsure if he was meant to move. Lyris turned to him. Will you stand with me? He hesitated. I don't belong here. She looked at him the way she had when they first met in the quiet hall with no power between them, just attention. You belong because you are here, she said. He swallowed and stepped forward. The light beings shifted. A low murmur moved through them. Lyris spoke, her voice steady. This is Elias of Earth. One of the shapes leaned forward. A human, it said, its voice like wind through leaves. Why is he here? Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. Lyris answered. He helped me when I asked for nothing, she said. He listened when I did not speak of power. He treated this place as a home, not a throne. Another voice rose. What does a single human offer to the balance of many worlds? Elias felt his chest tighten. He looked at Lyris. She did not answer for him. He took a breath. I don't offer much, he said. I can fix broken wires. I make bad tea. I talk too much. But where I come from, we believe something simple. The light forms leaned closer. We believe that no matter how big a problem is, it's still faced one person at a time, Elias continued. And sometimes the most important question is who's in charge? It's who needs help. The room went quiet. Lyris felt something shift, not in the station, but in the space between the distant worlds connected by light. A voice spoke, softer now. And who decides who needs help? Elias thought. They do, he said, if you're willing to listen. Lyris looked at him, and something in her expression changed. Not relief, not pride, trust. The gathering did not end with a loud sound or a bright flash. It ended with a quiet agreement. The light forms faded one by one, leaving the room warm and still. Elias let out a breath he did not know he was holding. So, did I just talk to the galaxy? In a way, Lyris said. He rubbed his face. I need a nap, she smiled. They sat by the wide window again. The ships outside were still there, but they were no longer hidden. Their lights glowed softly, not like watchers, but like neighbors with their porch lights on. Why me? Elias asked. Lyris followed his gaze. Because you did not ask who I was before you helped, she said. Most beings ask what someone can give them. You asked what was broken, he shrugged. Guess that's just how I was raised. She was quiet for a long moment. In my position, she said, I am surrounded by voices. Demands, fears, plans, very few ask how I feel. Elias looked at her. How do you feel? She seemed surprised by the question. Less alone, she said. They talked about Earth again. About rain and oceans, about small cafes on busy streets, about people sitting together even when they had nothing to say. Lyris told him about distant worlds made of crystal clouds, oceans of light, cities that floated in the air like slow birds. Their words built bridges no station could hold. Time passed in a gentle way. Finally, Lyris stood. They will want you to return with me. Return where? Elias asked. To the center of the conquered, she said, to be seen. He winced. I'm not great with crowds. You will not be there as a symbol, she said. You will be there as yourself. He considered that. That might be worse. She laughed, a real laugh, light and clear. The station hummed around them, steady and alive. Far away, messages spread from world to world, not about power. Not about rules, about a human who stood beside a queen and asked who needed help. The galaxy did not change in a single moment, but it leaned, just a little, in a new direction. And in the quiet space between the stars, a small, simple idea began to grow. Kindness, offered without knowing who stands before you, might be the strongest force of all. The journey from the quiet station to the center of the conquered took many days. Elias did not feel the movement in the way he expected. There were no long windows showing rushing stars, no shaking floors or loud engines. Instead, the space around the station seemed to fold gently, like a soft page turning in a book. Lyris stood beside him as they watched the distant light change. This is how they travel, Elias said, by moving the space instead of the ship. Yes, Lyris replied, it is faster and quieter. I like quiet, he said, gives your thoughts room to walk around. The conquered appeared like a sunrise made of cities. Huge shapes floated in open space, connected by bridges of light. Towers curved like growing plants, and soft, glowing paths moved between them like rivers in the air. Ships of every shape and size drifted nearby, calm and steady. Elias felt very small. They arrived at a wide platform that opened into a grand hall. The floor was smooth and warm, and the ceiling rose so high it faded into light. Beings of many kinds stood in quiet groups, talking in soft voices, their attention slowly turning toward Lyris, and then toward Elias. He leaned closer to her. They're staring. They are curious, she said. Humans are still new to them. That makes two of us, he muttered. Lyris walked forward and the hall opened around her, not with sound, but with space. Beings stepped aside, creating a path without being asked. Elias followed, trying not to trip over his own feet. They reached a wide circle in the center of the hall. A soft light rose from the floor, forming a gentle ring around them. Lyris spoke, her voice carrying without effort. This is Elias of Earth. He walks without titles, he speaks without fear, he offers help without knowing who stands before him. A low sound moved through the hall, not a voice, not a word, more like a shared breath. One of the beings stepped forward, its form shimmered like mist in sunlight. Why bring him here? It asked. Lyris did not answer right away. She looked at Elias. He felt every eye in the hall turn to him. His mouth went dry. He thought of Earth, of rain on windows, of small kitchens and warm cups of tea. He took a breath. I didn't come to change anything, Elias said. I came because someone I met felt tired, and because a place felt broken, that's all. The being studied him. And if this galaxy is tired, Elias thought for a moment, then maybe it doesn't need someone to lead it. Maybe it just needs someone to sit with it for a while. The hall grew very quiet. Lyris felt something settle in her chest. Not like a crown, not like a burden, like a shared hand on her shoulder. The beings began to speak one by one. Not in demands, not in arguments, but in stories. One spoke of a world where the sky had changed color and people were afraid. Another spoke of a distant colony that felt forgotten. Another spoke of two species that had stopped talking, not because they hated each other, but because they no longer understood how. Elias listened. He did not offer answers. He did not try to fix everything. He asked questions. What do they need most right now? Who feels unheard? What would help them feel less alone? Lyris watched him, and for the first time in many ages, she did not feel like the center of the galaxy. She felt like part of it. The Conquered did not change its laws that day. It did not redraw its borders or shift its power. But something quieter happened. A new space was created, a place where voices without titles could speak, where questions were as important as answers, where helping came before deciding. They called it the Civil Circle. Elias did not lead it. He did not rule it. He simply sat in it. Days passed, then weeks. Elias found himself walking through gardens made of light, talking with beings who had never spoken to a human before. He shared stories of Earth, of crowded trains and quiet nights, of people helping each other during storms. In return, he heard stories of worlds made of floating stone, of oceans that glowed in the dark, of songs that could only be heard in dreams. Lyris walked with him often, no longer surrounded by a space of distance and silence. Beings spoke to her more gently now, not because she had less power, but because she carried it differently. One day, Elias returned to the platform where he had first arrived. He looked out at the slow-moving ships and endless stars. Lyris joined him. You could go home, she said. He nodded. I know. Do you want to? She asked. He thought of Earth, of blue skies and loud cities, of people who would never believe where he had been. I think, he said slowly, I want to go back someday, tell them what I saw, let them know the universe isn't just big, it's kind, or at least it can be, she smiled. You will always be welcome here, he looked at her, and you'll always have tea waiting on Earth. Fair warning, though, we still argue about how to make it. I look forward to that, she said. Word spread through the galaxy, not as a command, not as a law, but as a story. A human once walked into a quiet station and offered help to someone he thought was alone. That someone happened to be the strongest queen in the galaxy, and instead of being impressed by his courage, she was moved by his kindness. Worlds began to send not just leaders to the Conquered, but teachers, builders, listeners, and children. The galaxy grew louder in a different way, not with power but with life. Years later, Elias returned to the same silent dock where it had all begun. But it was not silent anymore. Ships from 100 worlds floated nearby, their lights soft and welcoming. Beings walked the halls, talking, laughing, sharing food and stories. The station was no longer a throne, it was a home. Lyris stood beside him as he watched it all. This is what you helped build, she said. Elias shook his head. No, this is what they built. I just knocked on the door. She looked at him, and the galaxy's strongest queen bowed her head, not in respect for power, but in thanks for a simple human who had reminded her of something she had almost forgotten. The strongest force in the universe was not command. It was the courage to offer help without knowing who stands before you. And under the endless stars, that simple idea continued to travel farther and faster than any ship ever could.